back to the Creating Synergy podcast. Today we have the pleasure of speaking with a great man, Mr. Darrell Jacobs, the CEO of the Motor Trade Association, commonly known as MTA, in South Australia and Northern Territory. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Daniel. Thanks for having me here today.
Now, I'm just going to talk a little bit about MTA for those who might not know it. It represents over 1,200 members and almost 16,000 employees in the automotive, retail, service and repair sector. This sector alone contributes to a staggering $2.67 billion to our economy and supports over 31,000 employees across 5,533 businesses. It boasts over 1,000 apprenticeships in training with their group training organisation, employing over 450 apprenticeships across 240 businesses. So it's an amazing piece that you're doing for South Australia and NT.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's, the automotive industry is pretty big, and it's really changed, hasn't it? You know, since probably you and I grew up when we had manufacturing in South Australia too, so it was even bigger then.
Absolutely,
5,000 people at Mitsubishi, probably more at Holden and the likes. But transition over time, but still a big industry. At the end of the day, it keeps us moving.
Absolutely. So, Darrell, I want to get to know you, the human being behind the CEO title, and so let's go back to the beginning.
Yep.
Who is Darrell Jacobs, and what do we need to understand about your earliest context to understand the person who's sitting in front of me today?
Well, he's a country lad.
Yeah,
he's a country lad, born in Balaclava, and I grew up in a pub at Red Hill where my dad was a publican.
Yeah, there you go.
So small town north of Adelaide. Moved down to town and western suburbs sort of guy.
Yeah.
And then went through high school, Henley High.
Oh, yeah.
And then
I live around the corner from there.
Yeah. Well, you're a lucky man. It's a lovely part of town.
Great.
It's a lovely part of town.
Absolutely.
And then after school, really in those days, it was the 80s, and pretty much all my friends and that we joined banks. Mm-hmm. There was big recruitment and that, and I went off to the Commonwealth Bank, which I really enjoyed.
Yep.
You know, growing up, probably early 20s. It was you could spend a bit of time behind the cash teller, but also spend a bit of time at night time going out, I suppose.
Yeah. So the nightlife was good.
Yeah, so Commonwealth Bank, and then from there I took a year off, went and played cricket in the UK, which was probably, when I look at an influence on my life, it was a really important time.
Yeah.
It sort of got me to grow up a little bit quicker, but also see how lucky I was to be an Australian, I suppose, and live where I was
100%.
living.
So, county cricket, or were you
Central Lancashire League? So one down from county,
below.
but you know, got to play against the likes of Carl Hooper and Chetan Sharma and those guys. So they were international cricketers.
Did you represent South Australia or anything as well?
No, not good enough.
No, to just go over there and play. Yeah, that would have been amazing.
Yeah.
I had a similar experience, but I got sick before I went away. Same league, one below county, and I joined up with Middlesex. But about 2 months before I left, I fell sick. I got chronic fatigue. Well, I had glandular fever, then chronic fatigue, and I never ended up going. So I missed out on the opportunity.
Oh, yeah, it was a good opportunity. So I was a coach at Saka during that time, so I was heavily involved with the South Australian Cricket Association. But played over there. But you know, it was a real eye opener. You know, just looking at a different lifestyle.
Yeah,
I suppose. So, you know, had some really good times, met some great people. But so when I came back, I sort of had that bit more of a worldly view. Went back to the Commonwealth Bank, and then decided to sort of move on and finish my graduate degree, and then did a master's at Uni SA, and then landed a job at Edgell Birdseye, which was Simplot.
Yep. So
fast-moving consumer goods. Trying to sell products into supermarkets and get buyers to agree to put your stuff on the gondola end and that. So that was, I enjoyed that for a while. And then
before we jump into your whole career, I just want to start back again. Let's go back, right? Because there's a bit to unpack in there. So let's firstly, like, to understand you, I would like to, and I guess this is something that we bring in a lot in our business, is because we work with a lot of organisations through change.
Yep.
We have to understand the individual perspectives of the people. We have to understand their mental models, so to speak. And from that, there's an ecosystem of where that might come from. I'm interested in who Darrell was and how you were formed early. So tell me a little bit more about your parents and some of the philosophies that they instilled on you that you believe have maybe held you in good stead in your life.
Good question. So, well, I think my dad was a publican. He was a very hard worker. You know, ran it by himself, and mum did the kitchen basically. Yeah. So I think hard work is one thing that sort of has been with me. Mm-hmm. I think once again, being in the country, you're sort of just honest.
Yeah.
And sometimes that gets me in trouble, to be honest with you. But I think just, what you see is sort of a bit of what you get.
Yep.
There's no sort of charades and stuff like that. So I think hardworking and honest. And I think the other thing is mum and dad sort of brought me up to be loyal.
Yeah.
Be loyal. So, and ultimately, I think it's with all children, and that's how I'm trying to bring up my children, is just be the best you can be, whatever you choose. Go for it. You don't have to be a rocket scientist. You can be a carpenter, an electrician, do whatever.
Yep. What does being loyal look like? I think when you say that they were taught you how to be loyal, how does that?
I think loyalty to me is once again it rolls in with that honesty part, and sometimes for me, I suppose. It really is about, when I unpack it, it's a good question. I think it's about being, sometimes I really sort of probably do more than what I should do, work long hours, and I think you could, as a friend or as a fellow worker, you could always rely on me. Yeah. Like, if it needed to be done, it'd get done. Yeah. Sort of stuff. And it didn't really matter whether it was weekends or nights or whatever.
You're connected to the cause, right?
Yeah. So, once I understand the purpose of whatever business that is in, I'll try the best that I can do to make it happen. Yeah.
Is there anything that you look back on that just really makes you smile? Like in your childhood, with growing up out country, Balaclava.
Yep.
Something a memory that just sticks with you, that just makes you laugh, makes you smile, one that you like telling.
Yeah, look, I think country life was good life.
Yeah.
And I got into trouble a little bit.
As all kids.
I remember one day, I think I was in year 3, and it's a vivid memory, is one of my mates lived on a farm, so we decided we'd ride our bikes out there, which seemed like probably 10 Ks, it was probably a K.
Yeah.
They didn't know where I was. But they were the days that you could sort of let your kids roam around and sort of do whatever. So there was that one, just jumping on sheep's backs. So the smell of a shearing shed, smells an amazing sort of sense, and it really does take you back.
It does.
And that lanolin sort of feeling and that. So, and I'm an only child, so that probably explains a lot of it too. My mum is rather sort of, protective. Yeah. Whereas my dad was more like, just go and do it and have a shot at it. So I picked up a cricket bat when I was pretty small. I got a photo at home with a whole heap of cricketers around me. I think I was probably 6, maybe 5, that sort of stuff. So sport's always been a big part of my life. Yep. And I think that's also sort of made me who I am through sport. I was a captain of an under-16 cricket team at Fulham. Yep. We won premierships. We were a good side. I was picked for a lot of Sapsarza sides. So I think I really enjoy teamwork, and it's something I've taken with me through my whole career. Yeah. I really like to sort of gather the troops and let's sit down and let's talk about it. And then from there, let's divvy up the roles and let's do it together. Yeah. And I think that's really, in some respects, it's bringing people on that journey with you, and they understand their purpose too, rather than, we just go and do it. Yeah. And I think at the end of the day, the buzz comes from when you do achieve it as a group. And really through my professional career, then I had a professor, and one of the things that he told me, and it's always stayed with me, was that, throughout your life, there'll be a lot of ups and downs. There's no doubt that, in business and the likes. But when you do win something in business or really have achieved it, make sure you celebrate it, because, a week later, something will go the other way.
Yeah,
so
correct.
That's always been a philosophy of mine. So we do that. We do, right now we give out $50 vouchers if we see someone do something really well. Yep. A day off, take your birthday off, and just the little things to reward people. Yeah, because I think that.
Well, otherwise you just get stuck in the rat race, don't you?
Exactly right. Yeah. What's my purpose of coming to work? Yeah. The alarm goes off, and here I go again.
Sport is. I've interviewed a lot of leaders on this show, a lot of experts in their field, entrepreneurs, you name it. Yep. And sport seems to keep coming back and keep coming up over and over again. And I believe my personal background is high achievement in sport as well. Yep. And I honestly believe that the traits in which you learn from team sport just helps so much carry out in business and corporate world and this world that we live and play in. Do you think that is fundamental to who you are today?
Yeah, look, I think it played a huge part. Whether it was playing cricket on the driveway at home in the cul-de-sac with all the kids, right from the young age. I think it teaches you a few things. I think it teaches you that teamwork stuff. But also, there'll be days you go out to bat and snick one behind and you're out first ball,
Yeah.
And you're sitting there all day
Yeah.
watching a game in 40
Bit
degree
of resilience
heat.
built in.
Yeah, no doubt. But, it gives you an opportunity to connect with other people while you're
Yeah.
sitting there for 4 or 5 hours, find out. But then there's that discipline part, isn't there? Because you can't just play high-level sport without practice.
Yeah.
So, you turn up to training you used to train Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday nights.
Yeah.
Saturday you play, Sunday you play. When I was in the UK, I was playing every day of the week, pretty much. So of training, if you were struggling with something, you'd have to practice it and practice it and practice it. So I think, sport teaches you so much, that teamwork, the discipline, how to handle the good, the celebration, how to handle the bad.
Yeah.
Because there's often in sport there's a lot more bad than there is good, especially in cricket. So how do you handle that? And in those days, you didn't have all those other people around you, like, professional sportsmen these days have, you got psychologists around you, you got people with diet, you got all of that. And if you look back at the cricket sides of the 80s, let's play and let's have a beer and a smoke afterwards. So, it was very different.
Carrying a few extra kilos. I always remember growing up through the state squads and whatnot when I was playing that, I used to look at some of my heroes was the chubbier players, right? David Boone and all the above.
Buff Lehman.
Buff and all the above. Yeah. And I always used to remember my coaches would say, there's this sort of thought process that you can be overweight and play cricket and still be elite and all that. They're not elite sportsmen because they're overweight and all the above. And it's like actually the whole nutrition side of things, looking after your body, standing out in 40-degree weather for 8 hours.
That's right.
Needs like some sort of stamina, right? And it's hard, like it's real hard. Not to mention the mindset of running. If you're a bowler, which I was, running in or staying, if you're batting, staying out there for 50 to 100 overs, just
wearing a helmet,
in full gear, right?
Yeah.
The mental toughness that comes from it is huge. And
I think you take that back into business too. So like the mental toughness in business, like as a leader. There's a lot of bad days, right? But you can't show that. You can't show that to your staff. You need to be able to put some things away. And the ability to, when you open that door at home, your wife, your dog, your kids, they don't know about your day at work, and you shouldn't really take that home. You need to leave that at the door. So
where does vulnerability come into that then? Like as a leader, in your perspective, if I completely agree with you. There's a wall that you've almost got to create that people can't see. You can't get emotional, right, and be flappy, and it puts everyone off guard as a leader. But where does the vulnerability come into that?
I suppose if you're answering the question of what I think you're asking me is how do I deal with that? How do I cope with that?
Yeah.
Right. So I think once again, one of the ways that I cope with that is exercise. Sometimes my diet could be better, no doubt about that. But one of the things that I don't think Australia is very good at, and I have heard that this happens a lot in the US, is just having that sounding board, that mentor. And I'm a true believer that through all of our careers, it's always good to have someone that you can actually just talk to. Outside your family, outside of your work situation, that you can just say, you know what, I'm experiencing this. And generally that might be an older person who's been through it and had that experience. And I've had that. I've had that for probably the last 25 years, and that's Paul Unikoff. Like he's a person that I can just sit at a sounding board and just go, and it happened yesterday because I got some things going on, and I just said, what about this? And what he did is just give me a different perspective, and then also sort of pull it into the relativity of other things, and I walked away thinking, actually that's right, that's right. So I try to use outside people, different people sometimes, just to sort of run things past and that. But really, nighttime, what I find as a big mental release for me is going to the gym. And it might just be walking on a treadmill. I'm getting a bit old now. It's hard to,
But sweating it out, absolutely.
Sweating it out. Because what you put your headphones in and in some respects, you're sort of removed from everything. And you just, you're nearly in a trance. It's really quite weird.
It's a circuit, I call it a circuit breaker. I come home and go for a run. It's the switch off, switch on from work life to family life.
Exactly. And the other one, I suppose, in when the times have got pretty tough, and they do, like that, is, and I think through COVID we saw a lot of this, is pets.
Yeah.
So, I think the sale of dogs and all that sort of stuff went way up because people found that as a really good release. And I've got a little dog at home, and I talk to him.
Yeah.
I talk to Dasher all the time, and he looks at me and he seems to be smiling. And if he should be charging me. Just that release where you can do that, take the dog for a walk and, sit at the park. And so I think it's finding those things that are just sort of away. We're connected 24/7 on phones these days.
We are. For those who don't know, Paul Unikoff is the previous CEO of the MTA group and a family friend of mine, actually, funnily enough. So g'day to Paul if you're listening in. So talk us through your career journey now. So you go into the Commonwealth Bank. You're living a life where you're working hard and partying hard.
Yeah.
And then you said you went to Edgell. What from the banking, obviously you're a teller, but then you ended up in marketing at some point.
Yeah, strange.
So how does where does all that?
Yeah, well, I had a couple of jobs in the bank. I was a teller, then I was in debt recovery for a while, knocking on people's doors, asking them to pay loans, which was interesting. And I sort of got into a bit of a marketing area in the bank, and I really enjoyed it. And I suppose there's that was the creative side. That, and a lot of people talk about marketing as a mixture of art and science.
Yep.
So, I like to think, I love maths. I'm very proficient in maths, and I love all that sort of stuff, but also have this bit of an artistic side and, ideas man, I suppose. Yep. So that's when I went, I'm going to go and do this. And I did some university and went through that and had a really good lecturer, Bob Malloy at the time, and a good professor. And, and I was a bit of a mature age student. Mm-hmm. So I was there to study and not go to the bar. And got through that. And then, Edgell Bird. So I went in there more as a category manager, so pasta sauces and that. And it was an interesting job because it sort of was my big exposure to the big, fast-moving consumer world and how it sort of played out of how do you get your products into Coles and Woolworths and the power that they had at the time. So, and I was fortunate enough, I had a gentleman named Sean Hallahan who supported me, and I did a big promotion. And it was, the classic buy 4 jars of this and win something. Yep. And he backed me, and I wasn't in the marketing part. They were in Melbourne at the time. And it was about winning some tickets to go to the either win some golf sets or go to the President's Cup at the time in Melbourne. Yeah, wow. And promotion went really well, and I got a phone call to go and join the marketing team in Melbourne. And the life situation, we were pretty young still then and starting a family, and I was like, nah, I really don't want to go to Melbourne. I'd rather stay in Adelaide. Yep. Mum and Dad are here, and being only child, you got to think of those things. Yeah. So then went to Wendy's as the marketing manager of Wendy's, which was, at the day, ice creams and hot dogs.
What happened to Wendy's? Is it still around? I saw it. I was in Melbourne last week. It was there. But is there any around in Adelaide?
Funny enough, I saw an ad on the back of a bus.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wendy's hot dogs were the best thing ever.
And that was pretty good because the kitchen had a soft serve machine and a hot dog making machine. Oh. So you could have as many hot dogs or soft serve or ice cream as you got. I think we got 5 litres a week of ice cream if you wanted to take it home. So it was great. And that was Jeff Davis. He was a great guy.
It's not good for your health, though.
No, he was one of the founders of Wendy's back in the day. It started in the mall here. Yeah. And he was a really great guy to work with. And he was obviously super passionate. It was his business. Yeah. And he was really sort of trying to reposition Wendy's away a little bit from hot dogs to more of the ice cream flavours, a bit like Baskin Robbins. Yeah. And had their own factory in Dandenong and stuff like that. So, and that was around the time when Boost Juice started too. And I remember going to one of the first Boost Juice franchisee nights in Pirie Street, I think it was.
Is that Janine?
Yeah, Janine Ellis was there, and her husband worked in radio, I think SAFM at the time. And we had a bit of a look at it, and I went back to Jeff and we spoke a bit about this product, smoothies, and we need to have a bit of a look at this. So we did smoothies, but not at the level of Boost Juice and stuff. We introduced them into Wendy's. And
it was the shaken dog, if I remember.
I was actually the guy that came up with the campaign together with a guy from KWP, Jeff Carnegie.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, so we went in there, briefed him on shaken dog and, the milkshake and a hot dog.
Best ever.
2 ads. There was 2 ads made. There was one ad made with a Afghan dog where the window came down on the car, and there was a gentleman there, a sheik and dog. Yeah. And the other ad was very simple. We filmed it down at Hendon, and it was that little chihuahua, and there was a hole in the underneath, and the person holding onto the chihuahua's tail, and he was shaking. And it's become a real famous dog. And it was $5 for a milkshake and a hot dog, and it went ballistic. Yeah. So I thank Jeff from KWP for
every time I went. My parents took me to West Lakes. I would run straight to the
shaken dog.
Shaken dog. I love the thick shake though.
Yeah, you got to have the flake. So during that time, I was fortunate enough to meet Agro because we used to do all those clone. Jamie Dunn who was Agro at the time.
Yeah.
So, and then we'd do, special cones, like that's when Harry Potter was coming out.
Yeah.
So it was a very successful business.
Yeah.
And then Jeff, I think, finished up selling out.
Yeah,
Selling out of that business. And I can't remember, I think it was Retail Food Groups bought it.
Yeah.
But as you know, it's not what it is.
No, it was everywhere before.
Yeah, it was everywhere. It was everywhere, every shopping centre and all over the place. And there was mobile vans. So that was great fun. And moved on from there to Mitsubishi Motors. So that was interesting because I didn't know a lot about cars. Yeah. And I'm certainly no mechanic, and I can do the normal stuff, change oil and that. And
so how long were you at Wendy's for?
Probably, I reckon it might have been 5 years.
5 years. And then you've gone to Mitsy's, and you ended up staying there for how long?
17.
17 years.
Yeah, it's a long time, isn't it? There's the loyalty part.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, and did you go over as a marketing manager?
Yeah, so I went over as the retail marketing manager. So, the end of year campaigns and the June campaigns and that. And then...
and that's where you would have met Paul and everyone.
Yeah, well, it's a really interesting story because I walked in and I can't really recall it, but I basically asked who was the previous marketing manager.
Yeah.
And they said it was a guy called Paul Unikoff, and he was at that time he was down a side street at Selgar Avenue, and it was close to the Tonsley Hub. And I actually remember the walk. I walked down, and I first time I met Paul, I sat in his office, and I said to him, "Look, I'm the new guy. I hear that you were the marketing manager." There was two Pauls, Paul Torali and Paul Unikoff, and he was a regional manager.
I know Paul Torali.
Yeah.
He went to Peter Lehman Wines for a while as well.
That's true.
That is true. I reckon me and my dad built his house.
Yeah,
back in
Adelaide's a small place.
It is, absolutely.
Yeah, so the two Pauls, and so I'd sat in Paul Unikoff's office, and I said to him, "Look, I'm from ice cream. I don't know much about cars and that." And it was really interesting. We just sort of struck a chord. And I think for me, that was the moment that sort of it started, as a mentor. And I just from there, just started using him as a sounding board. And I think and why it's just kept working is that he's just a balanced guy.
Yeah.
He's very balanced. And those people that you talk to and they just always bring a slightly different perspective to it. And it just makes your brain think.
Yeah.
He's like that.
He's well-rounded.
Yeah, very, very well much. And obviously he's super well-connected too. Yeah. So that's how that started. And we just worked my way through the marketing team and finished up, did motor shows, did big ads, and finished up as the chief marketing officer there after a number of years.
Very good. And then, no doubt, actually, let's talk about Mitsy's for a bit.
Interesting times.
I guess the Japanese management style is something that is can often be difficult, especially here. And there's obviously culturally different from Australia, the way Australians would work and to the Japanese. Can you tell us about your time? And
17. But when I first arrived, it was humming.
Yeah.
I remember I went down to the engine factory down at Lonsdale where they were making engines. There was 5,000 people at Tonsley. It was big. We're making Magnas. It was a really, really big place. And the leader at the time was a gentleman by the name of Tom Phillips. Real soul of the earth sort of man, real blue collar sort of guy. I'd come from Toyota and a little gruff around the edges. You knew where you stood with Tom, but the passion that he had for manufacturing and cars was unbelievable like that. And Tom did it. We Paul's involved, did a big campaign for Tom, the Better Built, Better Backed campaign. And warranties and stuff around that was really good. And then, so Tom left and a new gentleman come along by the name of Robert McIntyre, who was ex-Holden at the time. And I think we sort of knew it, but it wasn't sort of broadcast that we were going to look at, winding down. It was difficult to make cars in Australia. We were not making cars for the US, which was the labour costs were super high, and 380 came around and the sales sort of weren't where they were, and that's when Ford Territory launched too, and we started to move into that SUV land. Yeah. So and Robert arrived, and he's probably been one of the biggest influences in my life as a CEO. He was there to do a job. He never
was he the guy that closed?
He was the one that closed it down. Was
the manufacturing part.
Manufacturing part. But his connection with every staff member on the floor was amazing. Like one of my stories was he was a marketer, so he'd come and see me and he'd come and sit in my office, and he had a certain saying for me. He used to call me soft cock. You have to edit that out, I used to call him Big Cheese. Yeah. So that was the relationship we had. But he'd sit in my office and have a can of Coke and a Mars bar and say, well, what's going on? Yeah. And we'd just sit and talk, and he'd talk to me about, have you thought about that and thought about this, and And then we do a lot of, we did some big motor shows and dealer launches where Robert was involved, obviously, and I was very close to him about writing scripts, and we used to get him to dress up and do some things at the big conferences and that. But he was just like an enigma. Like what he taught me was that if you connect with your staff, ultimately they nearly do anything for you. But we work really long hours. Like we would start at 8 in the morning and finish at 8 at night. Right, they were long hours because we were trying to save stuff and that. But you never sort of blinked an eyelid.
I remember you saying that to me. You said you would, in our last conversation, you said, I'd work 24 hours for Rob. What is that behaviour there? What is it about Rob that makes you, I mean, your loyalty no doubt comes into it, right? But what is, I guess I'm asking the question from the perspective of a leader who's looking to learn and sort of connect with their people the same way that Rob might have in your instance.
I think what it was that he just felt, in some respects, he's the CEO, but right. So if you have that, and that's an approach, where if you were trying to get a motor show stand ready, it was 3 in the morning. You had a press conference at 7. Rob and Paul would be there sweeping the floor with you. Yeah. It's that stuff. So there was no sort of I'm better than you sort of stuff. It was like we're all in this together. Yeah. And I think that's the one thing I've certainly taken with me, because I think if you lead by example and you sort of do connect, people will go, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. And Robert certainly didn't tell all the staff he was going to close the place. There was an inkling around that. But it was a really interesting day when it was announced that it was going to close. The staff they didn't applaud Robert because it was closing, but they applauded Robert on the way that he had undertaken the closure. It was unbelievable.
Which was how?
It was, obviously you wind down. With cars and that, you've got a lot of other suppliers. And, if you just close overnight, you've got a lot of money to pay out and stuff like that. And obviously people trickle away over time and they get payouts and all that other stuff. And I suppose in the area that it wasn't full closure, so we weren't losing. Everybody was losing their jobs and that. But I think you felt like he personally cared about every one of those employees, and whether he did or he didn't, I don't know. But every one.
He managed the change well, right?
He managed the change brilliantly. And I remember we did a big video for him, and it was we put a song which was called "Proud" by Heather. I think it's Heather Small. And I've still got it at home. This track, I suppose, and video with him. And he did a sort of a speech at the end. And the thing that he gave me, he actually called me up on the stage and said, Darrell, I give you this. And it was a running baton. It's pink, pinky purple. It's on it, non-Lennis Garley, if that's how you pronounce it. And basically it says, no soft cocks. He said, take this, and that's what you've got, basically. Take that and use that in your career. Go forward. And I'll never forget it. It sort of makes me a bit emotional. But unfortunately, Robert's passed. He had brain cancer. We went to his funeral and stuff like that.
How long ago?
Probably a couple of years now, 2 or 3 years. But I keep his funeral notice in my sock drawer. I look at it, when I need to, every month or two, and he reminds me of some of the things, the traits that I want to take forward and want to continue as a leader.
What are those key traits? What's the one that you go, you know what, that's what I want to be. That's the leader that I want my people to know me as. Yeah,
I think some of the words that might describe that, engaging, really sort of just be that, like in my workplace, my door is never shut. You can talk to me at any time of the day. You can walk in, ask a question. I'm never too busy. I want to talk to my staff. The one thing that Robert did, I think, is exceptionally well that I have taken with me is manage by walking around. I think that is the core. And it's getting difficult because people are working from home and all that other stuff. But he was never too busy to go for a walk and sit with a staff member and talk to them, not just about work, but about them. And say, you know what, Daniel, okay, how's things going? And you'd talk to him about you, and he'd say, but how's things really going? And you'd say, oh, yeah, a bit of trouble at home, or whatever you wanted to reveal, or whatever. I've got a big, I'm preparing myself for a cricket tournament this week. Good luck, buddy. Good luck with that sort of stuff. So you really felt like he was with you on the journey.
You weren't just a number.
You're not a number, and that's what where I work at Royal Park. There's a number of apprentices come in every day. I got staff in 4 different buildings. Every day I walk, every day, right? And that's one thing I try to tell my senior managers is you got to walk. I'm in a workshop in the morning and I'll be talking to an apprentice.
Yep.
Where did you work? What happened? Then I'll be at lunch to apprentices in their cars.
Yep.
And they talk to me about their cars, and you should see their eyes, the sparkle in their eyes when they're talking about their, RX-7 Mazda or something, and it's going way over my head.
Yeah.
But I can see it in the passion in them there, and they don't know who I am. I don't go up and introduce myself as the CEO or whatever. There's no need for that.
Yeah.
But they just love it,
Yeah.
sort of stuff. So that's probably a big one from Robert that I've taken with me.
There was another leader that you told me about at Mitchie's that had an impact on you as well.
Yeah, very different. And I suppose this is where East meets West in some respects. Yep. So when Robert left, we went through a couple of leaders, Japanese. So we sort of then started to get a bit more influence from head office, Japan, in Tokyo. So we had a couple of leaders, and then we had a leader who had been in Australia before, but not as a leader, but had come back as the CEO. And he was a very different, like, to be honest, like a dichotomy from Robert.
Yeah.
He was really keen to pull cost out of the business, not close it totally, but sort of get it functioning, better. And I remember really early on some of the things that happened, like, and they're little things.
What was his name?
Oshikiri-san is what we. That's his name. So, and I still learn a lot from him.
Yeah.
And I'll talk about a couple, but a couple of visual marketing things which I found interesting. So, we had 2 coffee urns in the kitchen, and one of them got turned off and had out of order on it. It wasn't actually out of order; it was just turned off. Yeah. The study that we had to do on the chocolate machine to see if it was actually worth having a chocolate machine, because the light and the power, turning half the lights off in the hallway. To save power, and there was a whole heap of stuff. It went through sort of everything, and a lot of it was visual, to sort of visually show that we need to be a bit more frugal as a business. And
had it come from a position of overspend and just
not really. I think there was no. I don't think it was that. I think it was a style. It was a style that he certainly had. So, and look, I think we've all experienced. There's times when you've got to cut people, you've got to cut things in business, but there was definitely a trait that was sitting behind that, and unfortunately what it did, it then went, some people left and downsizing and stuff like that. There was a row of senior leaders that left, and there was Japanese put into those positions, which is fine, that's okay. But what it did, it actually started to divide the staff. So you start to see, and it sort of become nearly a bit of a dog-eat-dog sort of world. So it actually pulled the people away from each other in some respects. And what I saw was people wouldn't give any extra, only if there was around. And some of the Japanese way of doing things is you don't leave before the boss leaves, that's fine, that sort of happens. But it was really sort of, ding, the bell went off, and you'd wake up in the morning and go, this is hard work. So I think for me, some of the things that I learnt from that was resilience. Like, there were some really struggled times there, and you also then had to sometimes help each other in the background.
Yeah.
So I'd certainly learn a lot about resilience, and I also learned a lot about the whole hierarchy in Japan in terms of where you sit on a table at the end versus in the middle, and that whole sort of approach. But I had a Nakajima-san who was sort of my boss, and he didn't come from a marketing background, but he came from a manufacturing background. My approach was to sort of really get close to Nakajima-san. He was a really nice guy too, and try and work together with him to influence the CEO in certain aspects. So that was sort of, the game of work, if you want to call it that. But resilience was one, and also I suppose what stood me really well out of that was understanding the cost side of business. We had to put a big list down of all of our suppliers and go through everything. And then, if a supplier was there for more than 2 or 3 years, it was a review, which I've taken forward with me, review. But then also, constantly looking at all your costs. And so I think while it was such a difficult time and it was sort of battened down the hatches, I think in any situation you can learn something.
There was a silver lining.
So I learnt resilience, and I learnt around the cost stuff around there. So if I take those sort of things from that experience, and then I add in the people, the managed by walking around, and the motivational aspect from the Robert experience, probably those have sort of helped me as a leader and a CEO.
Yeah. So you're not endorsing the management style?
No. My management style is more that sort of, let's let's motivate people and do that sort of stuff. But ultimately, as a CEO in the background, you've got to have resilience, right? And you have to look at the cost side of your business.
100%.
So, so there's times, but how you play that cost side, there's obviously ways that you can deliver that message. I deliver that message in a way that let's talk about it together. Mm-hmm. Let's look at that cost side and let's try and find a solution together. So one of the things I try to teach my staff too is when you come to me, and another one out of Robert, when you come to me with a problem, try and bring a solution with it at the same time.
Yeah.
Don't just give me the problem, right? Try and bring a solution. Now, we might work together and go, you know what, that's not the right solution, or it's partly the right solution.
Yeah.
So I try to also...
because as a leader, you're getting 15 people a day with a problem.
That's right.
Whereas if they're coming with solutions, it makes the path
exactly
much more
right.
easier.
Yeah. So that's what that's about.
Yeah, brilliant. The whilst we're on the Mitsubishi subject, what does the name Charlie Duke mean to you? And why was this such an important part of your career?
Yeah, well, I've used the story a lot.
Stories.
Yeah. I was just really lucky. I had Mitsubishi gave me such opportunity, to travel the world. I went to the US, I filmed in Thailand, I was in caves, I've been to Japan numerous times, but the one that really sticks out is the Charlie Duke ad. So it was a Pajero ad, and we were trying to explain the traction control in the car. Mm-hmm. And the creative, it was Clemenger at the time, and another great influence in my life, David Hallett, who was he's their group account director, and he's worked at Mitsubishi or with Mitsubishi for a lot longer. Absolute doyen of advertising in car industry and a great bloke. So he and his team came up with this idea that there was going to be an astronaut that was going to drive a Pajero in an environment that was like the moon and talk about traction control. And it was Charlie Duke. So Charlie Duke went on Apollo 16 to the moon. I think it was 72. And he drove the car, and it had traction control. Yeah. So next minute, we're off to work out whether Charlie wants to do it. I think we paid him about $100,000 to come over. It was a while back. And my first meeting with Charlie was I had to meet him at the Port Augusta airport, and then I had to... I was with him during the ad because I was the brand manager for a week. So the first meeting, I pick him up. We take him to his hotel room. We go to the Port Augusta pub for a snitty. Yeah. And there's Charlie and me sitting in the pub with a few locals. And I don't know what to say. And, he's a big Texan, and he's like, hey, Darrell, well, what's a schnitzel? So we're sitting there and we've got nothing in common other than I can see them. So I sort of just go, well, Charlie, tell me about the moon, right? And it was a really weird moment, surreal, in this other sort of folk in the pub are like, are these guys for real? Yeah. And it was sort of a bit of a chat, and the day finishes, and then we drive off to Lee Creek.
What did he say about the moon?
Oh, I could go on for hours about it. So for a start, they went.
Yeah. Because there's this the whole conspiracy thing.
They went. Yeah. Like just little things that I'll share with you was that they got paid like a meal allowance. Yeah. So it's not like you got paid thousands of dollars to go. You could keep your maps and stuff when you come back with the moon dust and that on it. Yeah. It took 2 hours to put on their suit to get out of the module to get onto the surface. There's only certain times you can go on the surface because it's really, really hot.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The bit that really freaked me out about it was, though, we're talking 1972, right? Yeah. To land on the moon, and not many people had done it by then. I think, obviously Neil Armstrong, but I think they were second or third. There was no sort of guidances and stuff. So he told me that the lunar module stuff that they go around the moon in, it was push the button, count to 3, and then take your finger off the button, off the thruster button, right? And that puts you in a different orbit. If you count to 4 or 5, you're probably going to crash into it. But the really important thing is they use shadows to work out where it was flat. So if there's no shadows, it's flat. If there's shadows, it's hilly.
Makes sense.
Because you have no idea where you're going to land, right? So that's that bit. And then he tells me that the technology in that craft was less than what was in a Casio calculator when we did this ad, which was probably 2008. So when you think about it, they were really sort of,
Yeah. And that's probably the part where people go, well, how is that possible?
Oh, it's unreal. It's unreal.
How do you land on the moon with a calculator?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, it's unreal. And I've actually been fortunate enough to go to NASA and see the Saturn rocket and stuff. Yeah. And when I was there, I actually checked contacted Charlie, I think it was Facebook, whatever, and said, and I sent him a picture of his, because they have different patches and stuff. Yeah. I think if you look online, he's still alive. He's 88 on that. So, but a couple of other quick ones where we drove to Lee Creek. So we're in a mine, like a tailings mine, and it's hot and there's flies everywhere. You got to wear fly nets, and he's got his flight suit on. And he's talking about, and when we went to the moon on a lunar module, it had traction control. So anyway, so all this sort of filming. And then, so just listen to all these stories, and there's a couple of others which I can't really share with you at the moment. And then we were sitting in the pub, and I was trying to explain Aussie rules footy to him, I think Kilda one night. And then one of the greatest stories, and I share it a lot, is we were driving back between Lee Creek and Port Augusta after filming, night time. Yep. And me being who I am, a country lad, I bet him that he couldn't drink a six-pack on the way back. And he's sitting in the back, and there was a Zoo who I work with, is another great guy. We're in the front and driving along, and next minute we hear from the back, I don't know, half an hour into the trip, hey, Darrell, I need to take a whiff. Right? We're in the middle of nowhere. Right? So he gets out of the car and off he goes, and he comes back to the car, and we're just sitting in the car, and he knocks on the window of the car, and he says, get out. We're like, this is weird. So we get out, and we're standing in like the middle of nowhere. It's pitch dark, right? And there's a few stars, and there's the moon, right? Oh, yeah. And he says to us, see the moon? And we're like, yeah. He said, if you see the grey part of the moon, that's the Sea of Tranquility, yeah? Yep. And he goes, just up to the right, you can't really see it, but just up to the right, that's where I landed. And I've never felt a moment like that ever in my life. Yeah. It's like I'm standing next to a guy that's been to something I look at every night, and this is incredible. So, it's a great story. And I thank Mitsubishi for giving me the opportunity to do some of those things in my life.
That's huge.
Amazing.
Yeah, I mean, imagine just looking back at the Earth and like that's where the whole of the human population lives.
On that blue planet. It would be
unbelievable. Right, so thank you for sharing that
That's
story.
all right.
I wanted to ask
Interesting story.
Yeah, it is. It's a great story. And so where to from here? So where does MTA come into it? And I mean, you've been in the motor industry for 17 years now at Mitsubishi. MTA seems like it's a nice fit. Paul's obviously gone over there as well. How does it all come together?
Yeah, look, I think, Paul gave me a call, actually. I was at Mitsy's, and I think he was starting to think about what his next move was going to be. And, basically said, what do you think? And I, to be honest, never really thought. I've always had a goal that I wanted to be a CEO, because I think it came from being a cricket captain, to be really honest with you, because I do get a buzz out of watching other people, and that makes me very proud. Right? So and I got the call, and I was like, oh, interesting. So didn't know much about it.
So this was as he was retiring?
No. I think in the back of his mind he probably had a bit of a plan.
Yeah.
And we talked a little bit about it, but I think it was probably a 4-year plan. And it happened a little bit quicker.
So he's poached you as a marketing manager or something like that?
I first went in as the manager of, I had marketing underneath him, more general manager. Had marketing and membership and other stuff. And I said to him really honestly, I said, look, I don't know a lot about policy, government, and, I'm not really interested in Labor, Liberal. It doesn't really worry me. And he said, that's okay. He said, at the end of the day, I think you've got the traits that can be right for the business. So, so I joined. And it was interesting because it was really joining from a massive corporate, global, to a quite a small state-based not-for-profit, right? And it was really quite challenging to start with. Like I was like, what have I done?
Budgets, felt like you went back in time a little bit.
Budgets are very different. It's a not-for-profit, and I certainly did see at the time it was just sort of, amongst some of the staff, are sort of, we just turn up and get things done. Very paper-based. Certainly didn't have the money or the systems that we could have at Mitsubishi. So there was opportunity. There was opportunity in there. So, and I think, to be honest, we're probably really good for each other, Paul and I. I think he could trust me and let me loose, and he probably needed a little bit of help too. And for me, it was a circuit breaker. I didn't have to work 12 hours a day. I didn't have to work weekends and fly overseas everywhere, and it was really good. So it was good for both of us. So I went into that role, did a number of things, and learned a lot quickly, which is one of the, I suppose, another trait of mine. If I'm going to go, I'm in. I'll dive straight in. I'll go home. I'll read all about stuff, and even to this day, I consume all the time.
Yep.
I'm consuming, I've got media monitoring. I'm learning about what's happening in Europe, what's happening in the US, because I think for me that's what I've got to do. Mm-hmm. Right. So went into there, and then really, I suppose we made some changes around that, and then Paul decided it was time. It was time to move on. So that took about it was 2 to 3 years, I think, which was good. It gave me a good grounding.
Yep.
First of all, actually, before that, he said, what would you like to think about coming down to Royal Park and looking at the training side? Mm-hmm. So I'd done the member side. It was a little daunting, but I have been a lecturer at university. I lectured masters in marketing, so I understood the training side, but it was a little bit of a challenge. We're going through some change, and I had to sort of move some trainers on. Mm-hmm. So I said, yeah, I'll give it a go, sort of stuff. And he was a bit closer. He was at that office. So I did some work there, and then, as I said, Paul sort of said it was time for him to sort of move on, and it was a good opportunity for him and his brother Con.
Yep.
And they're very successful, and but he's never really sort of. The good bit is he's let me put my spin on the whole thing, but he's still there.
Yeah.
I can sense he's there, and I can ring him at any moment, 24/7. So I was like, okay, we're going in. I had to pitch. I didn't just get given the job, so I had to pitch to the board. And so, well, this is what my strategy is as a business. And really, the purpose is about being the best automotive services, training and employment provider in South Australia to everyone, and to our members in particular, the 1,200 you talk about.
Yep.
And to do that, what I saw the opportunity was to bring those three things closer together. So we have a couple of offices. We, as you said, we train 1,000, we employ 500, and we've got 1,200 members.
Yep.
So I just looked at it and back at sort of like my edge or bird's eye days to say, well, if you're Cadbury and you're selling 3 chocolate bars, how do you bring them together and get people to use different chocolate bars? So that's our strategy at the moment, is how do we bring those services together? And ultimately, yes, we're a not-for-profit, but I'd like to think that we're a profit with purpose.
Yeah.
And that's a mentality shift. And what that means is that if we make $1, it gets reinvested. It's a better piece of equipment for an apprentice to train on.
100%.
It's a better service to a member. It's trying a bit more marketing to get another kid a job.
Absolutely.
In that. So that's sort of where we're
It
at.
has to be that.
Yeah.
Right? Otherwise,
Yeah.
you forfeit the right to make a difference if you're not.
Yeah.
If you're not trying to. Grow it and add more value to the community and your members.
Yeah, and that's been a bit of a mentality change amongst some of the staff.
Yeah.
Staff come and go. That's how it is. But I've actually been able to really get a good general manager line in, and a senior manager line in of people with that see the purpose and then can enact that purpose too, and walk around and manage by walking around. And it's interesting. We've done some work recently where I watch little things as a CEO. Like I watch things like if you have a lunch, who cleans up, right? Or if you've had an event, who stays behind and packs the chairs behind the table. And it's been interesting watching the people that do and the people that don't, and they actually exhibit a very similar behaviour to they do to some of their work life. But it's actually been really encouraging. Like a lot of my general managers, line managers, and other people, not too hard, stay back, put the chairs up, put the plates in the bin, and once again, it gives me a buzz.
Yeah,
I can do it. Anyone can do it.
Yeah,
sort of
There's
stuff.
your Rob
McIntyre thing again.
That's his thing.
It just keeps coming through.
Keeps coming through. So it is your first CEO gig.
Yeah.
Tell me about it. Has it been anything? Has it been a smack in the face? Has it been welcoming? Has it?
To be honest, I love it.
Yeah.
I absolutely love it. I suppose some of the things I had to learn was, board,
Yeah.
a bit more around governance and stuff, even the political side. But I love every day going to work because I get the diversities. As I said, I can be in the workshop with an apprentice at 20 years old and talking about a car or something and their life. And what got you into cars, and what do I go drifting on the weekend, blah blah. Next minute I can be in a meeting with a minister talking about education and schools in South Australia, or I can be in a board meeting with who I think is the doyen of the South Australian automotive industry, Frank Agostino. Now here's a guy that was a light vehicle mechanic who is now he's into diversity of everything, grows olives, runs sheep, petrol stations, and Frank's ability over many years, he's 78 now, to grow his business, 1,200 staff, and I can talk to Frank, and he gives me leadership too. So to engage a board, so every day for me is very different. We've been able to turn some of our training things differently, turn them around, and I'll tell you what the secret is to that. And I start next week. I start visiting all my members again. So next week I'm on the road with one of the general managers different days, and we just go and sit down in a member's business and we talk to them and say, okay, tell us, simple question, how's business? We talk, they say, yeah, okay, this is happening, that's happening, and then we try to say, okay, well, can we help you with these different parts? You know, and generally what comes up is we haven't got enough people, and we say, well, we might be able to help you with an apprentice, or and then we might take that away and go, well, if they haven't got enough people, how could we do something in our training that leaves the apprentice in their business more often? And we totally changed our training model based on customer feedback. So I think that gold piece is no matter where you are, talk to your customers, understand their problems. So there's probably two parts.
Customer is at the heart, right?
Well, ultimately, there's nothing, is there, without your customer? If you haven't got the customer, whether you're in a restaurant or it doesn't matter, you ain't got a business.
That's right.
So, you know, I'm really fortunate. Like, I've got customers like Anthony Casey, who runs CMV, Sean Swift, who runs Eagers, ASX-listed companies, right down to mum and dad customers. You know, I'm quite happy to sit in the kitchen at a trucking company in Port Augusta and have a chat with Tracy. You know, and I think that's the country part in me. Like, let's sit down, let's talk. How can we help you? We can't help you all the time. And then I can also impart some information that they might not be au fait with because they're busy in their business.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know?
Well, just on the customer as a heart, and then and I want to get into the, I guess, the training element that I know that you put a lot of time and effort into. And as you know, the business that I run, we focus on change and helping businesses through organisational change. And I know just through our previous conversations, talking to Paul, the likes, that you have this sort of passion around change and doing it well. And focusing on customer. Can you talk us through that training change that you made and the big changes that you are implementing? And then I'd love to then focus on the macro changes of the industry as well. So, I'd like to look internally for the first part.
Of course.
What does change look like to you, and how do you and how have you managed that in your early phase?
I think there's a Japanese word for change, and it's called Kaizen. Right, continuous improvement. Right,
it's the old Toyota.
So I think change is every day. Right, so people will talk about change and they often will go to some big piece of work. We've done this piece of work, it's change, right? It's not, or it is part of change, but every day there's change. So I've got this phrase on my whiteboard and my staff laugh about it, right? But it basically says a maze of opportunity, right, as one word. Because wherever I look, I see opportunity. And that's what I want my staff to see. I want them to see, to go, well, hang on, I could do that better. Or we could do that better. Or hang on, that customer needs to be helped now. So for us, it was about, in the training space in particular, we went out and had a good chat with all our customers. And it doesn't matter what industry you're in at the moment, everyone needs people, And so there's two ways to try and help them with that. Is one, find more people. That's not that easy. You know, we can talk about skilled migration. We can talk about we need more apprentices, bigger picture stuff and happen. So we went back and said, okay, well, how could we put their apprentice in their workshop more often? And we looked at the training plan and said, well, hang on, they're up with us quite a while. You know, over a 4-year apprenticeship, I think it was about 120 days. Right. And what that meant was you do unit 1, then you do unit 2. So you might do breaks, go away for a few weeks, come back and do suspension. Right. And to her credit, Jodie Ryan, who's my general manager of schools, really sort of flipped it on its head, and she's been in the industry for a long time. And she said, how about we start looking at it as tasks? So, you know, while you're doing the breaks, have a look at the suspension sort of stuff. And what that did is that sort of made the whole training plan more efficient. So, you know, rough numbers, 120 days on our site out of your business became 79 days on our site, giving you 41 days back of a staff member in your business.
Massive difference.
Massive difference. Massive difference, right? And so, but it was a journey though, because it was like, okay, we could come up with this and then we could just give it to our 20-odd trainers and they could say, well, that doesn't work. So really what it was about, that's what we want to do, but then it was about engaging the people to make it happen. So we actually got all the trainers together and said, how about if we could take some time out of this, we're thinking about this taskway, you are the actual technical experts, why don't you design the training plan, right? So they actually went away and designed the training plan. Right, which came back pretty similar to what we already had. All of a sudden buy-in, and they were like, we can do this. Right, rather than you just go and do this, which I think would have had a bit of a mutiny. So they designed the training plan, and sort of away it went. So we've been able to give business back time, which sort of helps solve. It doesn't 100% solve their issue. It came out of listening to our businesses, trying to find a different solution. It's actually also allowed us to increase capacity of our site, so win-win.
Yep.
So we've grown from 800 apprentices now to 1,100, right? Because you can't have all those people on site at one time. So it's allowed us to grow, train more, grow as a business, and solve the customer's problems. So
have more impact on the industry.
Yeah. But I think that the key part along that journey was we identified a problem from a customer. We went away, had a bit of a think, and we had various different solutions. We thought about this one. We did check it with a group of customers, and they went, yeah, of course.
Yep.
Then we went back, but we actually had the people that delivered it design it.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah, that was.
I think that's the big key learning in that is, from our perspective, we've put a lot of time and effort and research into how do we get people to adopt change, right?
Yep.
And there's these common words like resistance and everything else, and change is often seen to be resisted by people because they're unable to make sense of it, right? And so when you take it to them and you help them and you engage them in the process and you and you say help us, help our customer, right? They then become part of the sense-making process.
Correct.
If you go to anyone and you say like, I'm going to go and do this, they're going to kind of pull back a little bit because they don't really understand why. I'm not understanding the context behind this. What is it actually? How does this interact with the ecosystem in which I'm working with? Hang on, that's a different perspective, or I'm seeing something different to what you're seeing.
Yep.
And so we have to allow them the opportunity to understand what this actually means and then help the sense-making process. Once that's done, then change becomes so much more smoother from that point on.
I agree. I think when any senior manager approaches a staff member and says, we're going to change something, I think immediately in people's mind there's a fear. To start with.
What's in it for me?
Exactly. And look, I've had there's been some challenging ones, like my finance department, for instance, very paper-based. And I remember when I first arrived, there was members paying by cheque, right? And this is only 5 years ago. And I said to one of the ladies running that area, I said, why are we paying by cheque? Oh, that's too hard. Well, customers always pay by cheque.
Yeah.
I said, but it's too hard. So I said, can I get the list of the 43 customers? So I actually rang them all, right? And I said, look, I know you're paying by cheque. You probably paid by cheque forever. But, to make it easier for you and us, we could just take it out of your account. And there was one member left. And I love him. He's dead. And I actually visited him. He's retired recently. He runs a crash shop, a brilliant crash shop out at near Edinburgh. Yeah. And he wanted to stay. And that's okay, Des. No problems. And he also still gets everything from paper. It's a
lot less admin though, 40
Yeah, so, but it was very difficult because I think that person was sort of caught. And, obviously you're used to what you're doing.
Yeah, correct.
Right, you're sort of caught in that thing, and it does somewhat make life easier. So I have had a bit of a challenge through some of our finance department to sort of show that we need some new systems. So the way that I do that is to try and show the value to you, the employee.
Yeah.
Right. So you're drowning every day in accounts payable.
Yeah.
Right. If we can put this in, it actually might make your job better.
100%.
And you can do something else. So, but I think there's never 100%. There's people that will not come on that journey with you. So
that's the role of any leader, and change maturity in many organisations is quite low.
Yeah, okay.
In regards to how do we actually look at this problem and get our people on board.
Yeah, yeah.
And so, as a leader, it is our role to basically set the boundaries, and as we embark on change, and say, look, this is what we're doing and what we're not doing. Yeah. Right. Yep. Here's how this connects back to the overall purpose and context of the business strategy and what this means for our customer. But here's what it means for you. Yeah.
The ladder strategy.
Absolutely.
Purpose comes down. We've got strategy. We've got objectives. We've got KPIs. So we've laddered all that in together.
Absolutely.
And what we do is, so our GMs have their KPIs. And ultimately, their KPIs are achieved by the managers that help report to them, to the staff that help report to them. So the whole thing ladders together. We have quarterly, very open sessions with all our staff to show where we're at as a business. We don't hide anything, really. So I think that's important.
How much emphasis do you put on, with all the change, and we're about to talk about it, with all the changes happening in your industry,
there's a lot.
How much emphasis do you put on the change maturity of your leaders, your people, in sort of equipping them so that you, MTA, are able to serve your members when embarking on the changes that are coming?
Yeah. I think Well, I'm always challenging them to, to say, well, can we do that differently or do whatever? The one thing I suppose, there's two parts to it. One is I really try to make sure that our senior leaders are constantly visiting customers, right? Because they need to understand that the customers are going through change.
Yeah.
Right? Now, there'll be customers that are going through more change. The interesting thing when we talk about what's coming is it's very, there's different paces in it. So if we want to talk about electric vehicles, they're going to affect dealerships, well, they are now, a lot quicker than they'll affect the little shop around the corner from you and I.
Yeah.
So I can talk to that shop about it and they'll say, well, I'm not going to see them for 10 years because they're under warranty or whatever.
Yeah.
But I talk to a dealership about it and they say, well, I've got them. Right, they're here right now.
Yeah.
So with our senior managers, it's more about we've got a very open conversation of the ability to ask questions and challenge each other and don't take anything personally.
Yeah.
Right, because one of the things when I did my MBA was systematic thinking or systemic thinking from Bob Malloy was I've got a viewpoint. But you've got a viewpoint, and you're seeing it from a different angle with all your traits and all your history and that, and so is someone else. But together, we might be able to solve that, or you see something I don't see.
Yep.
And that happens quite often in our business. So I've got a apprenticeship general manager, but I've got an employment general manager. And the employment general manager will often say to the apprenticeship general manager, well, I've got a customer that this is happening. And the apprenticeship general manager just didn't see it.
Yeah.
Just didn't see it.
Yeah.
A very simple example is we sent a student home early during a weekday, right, from a country area. And we generally want to ring the business and tell them they're coming home. But the employment general manager said, well, the business doesn't actually want them back because they've scheduled the week without them. They'd be better off staying at training and trying to pick up some more training. Like, why are they down there? Give them some more training.
Yep.
Which is way outside of our model,
Yep.
but we've actually adapted to that.
Yep.
So if you've come down for 5 days, we'll give you 5 days of training. If you've finished a unit in 3 days, we'll chuck another unit in there.
Yeah.
So they go back, better. So I think with it, it's that ability to sort of just come together as a team with different viewpoints. Now, my role in that is sort of like a chair, is to sort of let the conversation happen, but also try to, times it gets a bit willing, that's fine, but try and lead it in the direction that the company needs to go to.
And make the ultimate decision.
Make the ultimate decision.
The systems thinking approach
is
everything we based our whole change approach on, right? Which I was really happy to hear you say. So that systems thinking approach, as leaders, we should be understanding the boundaries, understanding the context, how it interacts within the system and the ecosystem in which it plays in, and then the perspectives. And I'll give you a really great analogy that really applies to your industry. It's called a street corner analogy on perspectives. So you and me, Darrell, we're at an intersection in the middle of the street. There's a T section. You're on one corner and I'm on the other corner, and we see a car accident that happens in the middle of the intersection. You see it from one perspective on the far left corner, and I'm on the bottom right corner. You see it from that perspective, and you saw a little black cat that ran across the road that caused the person at the front to slam on their brakes. And then I saw the guy in the back car on his mobile phone, not paying attention, smashing into the back of the car. We saw the exact same car accident from 2 different perspectives, 2 different reasons as to why it occurred, and yet none of us are wrong. Right?
Yeah.
And so that's the importance of what you're saying then around perspectives.
Yeah,
it is everyone is going to see something from a different perspective based on their mental models, based on their history, on some change that they've been through in the past, or an experience that they've had with a previous leader or whatever it might be. And they'll bring that perspective to play when making decisions or trying to understand something. So as leaders, we are responsible for understanding, and the walking of the around and understanding the individual is super important when embarking on change, right? It's just that collaboration piece. So it sounds like you guys are doing some great work out there.
Yeah, look, I think the other part of it is just understanding the background of your people. Like, you understand their work life, but as a CEO, you've also got to understand the influences that are happening behind the scenes. Right. And, but you obviously got to keep that private. But, I have staff come to me with all sorts of things. Their kids done something. They got issues at home and stuff. And because you do see people that are just off. on a day. And you got to sort of be that sounding board to them. And I must admit, I think there's with our apprentices, we've got 1,000 apprentices. We've got about 500 of them that have used a mentor. It's because life's tough, and all that sort of stuff. But I think the other part to that change part or making that decision, because sometimes as a CEO, you make that decision based on the best evidence that you have at the moment and all the viewpoints. But you got to be humble enough to say, you know what, I got it wrong. I got it wrong. I actually got and listen to maybe one afterwards. Like we went recently tried to change some of the ways that our customers paid, and we thought this was a good answer. We went and talked to some customers about it, and they said, yeah, that's what we want to do. So we went out and we rolled it out. Well, we got some pretty quick feedback from some other customers that said, no, we don't want to do it that way. And we could have just stuck with our guns and said, you know what, that's what we're doing. But we didn't. We sat down and talked about it and said, you know what, they don't want to pay that way. So we've got to change our internal system back to pay the way they want to pay. So there's got to be a bit of humbleness in there to say, you know what, I got it wrong.
Next time speak to us, we can help solve that problem up the front, mate. You won't make those mistakes if you follow our framework. But there's a nice little plug. Anyway, the macro changes in the industry. This is of real interest to me. I'm excited about this part of the conversation. You said to me during this week, that the automotive industry is facing and preparing for the biggest change in the industry since the Ford Model T in 1918.
It's a good one, isn't it?
That's a big statement.
It is a big statement.
And you alluded to the Teslas and the electric vehicles. I go straight to Tesla.
You drive one.
I do. But so tell us, what's happening? What is this industry? What's the changes?
What an amazing moment in time, and what a great moment to be in automotive. And I think the first context to say is it's not all going to happen overnight, right? So this is a long tail thing. This is going to be change. It's going to be over the next 20, 30 years, may even go longer than that. But there's no doubt that we are heading towards zero emissions, right? There's no doubt globally, and we have to do it. I think we all understand it, and I think we've all changed our lifestyles in one respect or another, solar on our roof, whatever, to make sure that our children and their children have a good planet to grow up in. Right. So I think we all believe in that. So emissions from vehicles make up a lot. I think don't use this number exactly, but I think it's about 19% of all CO2 into the air. So it's a lot. Yeah, it's a lot. So we need to.
And that worldwide, 19%.
I think that's in South Australia, to be honest. Okay. So I think it's pretty high. So so we need to do something about it. And obviously globally, there's a lot happening in that space. So and I suppose with the default is electric vehicles. We start talking about electric vehicles, but there's a lot of other things happening. There's hydrogen that we talk about. There's plug-in hybrid electric vehicles. There's better ICE engines, internal combustion engines, that are getting more proficient. You see cars turn off at the lights, turn back on again. There's better diesel engines. So it's a whole of industry change. It's not just we all need to drive electric vehicles.
What's your argument, just on the electric vehicle piece, what's your argument back? Well, no, sorry, not an argument. What's your response back to those who say, but in order to make the batteries, then the manufacturing behind that creates more CO2 than the cars themselves. Like, what's your response?
Look, I think, and I was around, we actually launched iMEV, which was one of the first electric cars in Australia. There was the Volt, and then there was iMEV. It was a small car, about the size of a golf cart, sold for 55 grand.
Yeah, wow.
For 55 grand. And we sold about a dozen. Look, I think if you do count the fact of, we've got to get the minerals out of the ground, we've got to do this, are we burning brown coal to generate, or coal to generate you can make a story up, or you can look at all the numbers and go, you know what, they're not efficient. Right, that's fine. But I think at some stages, whenever there's a solution, there's always a problem. So you've got to work through those things, right? And I think electric vehicles are part of the solution. That's my answer. I don't think they're the whole solution to where we need to get to, but they are part of it. All right. The average Australian travels about less than 56 kilometres a day. Do we really need to have the cars that we need? But I think the other challenge in Australia is outside of that, we go on holidays, we take caravans, we go to beaches, we travel long distances. So we've got to find this spot. Right. So, but Australia is behind. I talked to Minister Bowen, and I've spent a bit of time with him, and he does say that Australia and Russia are the laggards. Really, when we look at countries that are way in front, it is Norway. Like Norway's probably 10 years in front. And
so what are they doing over there that we're not seeing here?
Yeah, in Oslo, there's a lot of Teslas driving around. They've got a lot of infrastructure in there.
Because that's the big piece, isn't it? If for the world to change, the infrastructure.
Infrastructure's huge, and more about that. I wasn't fortunate enough to go. Paul went to Oslo. He was still in the role at the time. Bummer earlier, but they're going through change too because they've put in. They've got all the cars there, but their charging infrastructure, which is 7 kilowatts, is now not big enough to handle it. So they've gone from range anxiety, how far can I drive in this thing, to queue anxiety. So when they pull up at a charger, there's already 5 cars there and they're waiting for 4 hours to get a charge, or the charger's broken. So the electricity's not working, or all sorts of things, right? So they're ripping out, putting in bigger chargers. But one of the interesting things at Norway, the findings were, is a lot of people kept their second car. So yes, they drive a Tesla, and yes, they drive a Tesla around Oslo or a BYD or whatever, but they've kept their bigger SUV and their bigger utes to drive to the mountains when it's snowing and everything else there. So I sort of take a bit from that. And my viewpoint is I think that we will, and my wife could easily drive an EV. She's done 15,000 Ks in her car in 5 years. So we might be a 2-car family, one being an EV around town, but the other one will be a ute or an SUV when we want to go on that big holiday. So I think there's a sweet spot somewhere.
I will echo that. I just drove to the Renmark for a basketball tournament recently, and I guess when infrastructure's better, this might not be much of a problem. But at the moment, I looked up there and I'm like, I can't charge my car anywhere. And so we took my wife's 7-seater SUV up there, and I actually said to her, because I was looking at replacing that car for her with an electric vehicle, and I'm like, we actually can't afford 2 electric vehicles, not right now in its current state, without the chargers around, especially with these basketball trips and everything else that go with it. So I would say that's actually a real thing for me personally. It's something I've recently experienced.
Look, I think everyone will be different, depend on your life situation. There's no doubt about that. In other cities, like when I go to Sydney and that, there's a bit of e-scooters around, and there's all that sort of stuff. But so yes, biggest change probably in 100 years. It's going to take a long time to do it. The government last year announced their new vehicle emissions strategy. They're getting serious about it. As of January 1, it comes in, and what that does is it puts an onus on the manufacturers of those cars to start making cars that are more fuel efficient or CO2 efficient. There's probably a better way of saying that. And that'll be an average. So, for instance, if you are Mitsubishi and you sell lots of Tritons, you might have to offset that with selling lots of Outlander PHEVs, and you'll have an average. If you go above that average, you'll get fined. I think it's $50 per car or kilometre or whatever. I'm not sure what that is, right? But the fines will be massive. Like, we're talking millions of dollars. So what we've seen play out in America is that and we say everyone drives around in their F trucks and all that sort of stuff. And yes, they do. But some of the companies over there are paying Tesla. Tesla last year, $1.8 billion made by selling their credits to Ford and the likes, so that Ford can sell that. So they're sort of paying your competitors in some respects. So Australia...
How does that even work?
Yeah.
Like credits. It doesn't make sense.
Solar credits,
Yeah, but you're still not saving the environment. You're just buying
credits.
Yeah.
So the Australian system will have some credits in it. It's a little bit different than the US one. But so now that we've got some legislation in the space, you'll start to see that it change. And I think it was 2 weeks ago on TV, we started to see there were 6 brands from China starting to think about the Australian market. BYD make all the batteries for Tesla. BYD are the biggest electric vehicle company in the world, and BYD sold a lot of cars in Australia last year. So we'll start to see... They're popping up everywhere. So you'll start to see... I was in Singapore last week. I saw Aeon, which is a brand I've never heard of. And there was a whole heap of other brands that will arrive in Australia very soon.
I just got back from Melbourne. Those Polestars are everywhere.
Yeah, Polestars.
They're starting to take off as well.
There's Polestars. There's, but I think... So what that means is if the product changes, all the things after that will have to be different. So how do we service them? There's a lot of talk that they don't need servicing. They will be they're very heavy on brakes and tyres. You still need to service them, but you'll need to service them in a different way. So what we do, and we're preparing our apprentices now, and we're retraining our workforce, qualified techs, is a lot more around auto electrical, scan tools. We had a EV9, which is the latest Kia, in the other day, and they had a plug system that went in where you charge the car with basically like a TV screen on it, and it went through all of the electronics of the car and basically said, yes, okay, or no, this isn't working, and it's called CAN bus.
Yeah, wow.
Right, so it's a real opportunity for the motor vehicle industry to have a different conversation with young people about cars, because I think generally young people think, and especially we'd love to have more females in our industry.
Yep.
They think, dirty, greasy spanners.
Yep.
Well, if we can have a conversation around its technology, you're plugging computers in and you're doing diagnostics and that. It's a very different conversation.
I had a thing with my Tesla where the screen wasn't coming on one day. And it was when I first bought it. It would have been the first 2 weeks of when I bought it. I'm like, what the hell? I've got a dud. The screen didn't come on. And I opened the app, rang the number in the app and the helpline. Yep. And without sounding rude, I literally spoke to a computer geek, right? Like someone who it wasn't a mechanic or anything like that. And he goes, just push these 2 buttons and it should reset and you'll be ready to go. And it worked.
And it did.
Yeah, but it was just, I just remember it so distinctly. Oh, that is a complete different experience to what I've ever. So
Control Alt Delete,
yeah, 100%. Stop it, so restart, and it should turn it off and on again, and it should work. And that's exactly what it was. Essentially, it's a phone on wheels, right? Yeah. So as part of the motor trade, then with these changes of electric and moving into that world, the apprenticeships and the teaching of mechanics is what happens.
So we've been thinking about this for a while. Yeah. So first of all, there's 2 parts. So there's all those qualified techs that are out there that are mechanically based.
Yep.
Well, the fact is they'll have a job for their whole career because we'll be still driving around in the ICE cars for 20, 30, 40 years, right?
Oh, you reckon that long?
Yeah, we'll still be driving around in them because we'll keep that second car.
Yeah,
right?
okay.
So about the line that we use is about your ability to work on whatever drives in the workshop. So someone might drive in with a diesel, a normal petrol car, a hybrid, or an EV. Now, a business wants me or you as the mechanic to be able to work on all of those cars.
Yeah.
Right? And for your career, it's actually good that you can work on all of those cars.
Yeah, everything.
Right? Not just EVs. So we are now, for qualified techs, we're looking at how do we upskill them. So a lot of those qualified techs have already done a bit of auto electrical. So it's more about how do we help them get in to understand DC converters, battery packs, and the rest that happens, regenerative braking. The challenging one is with apprentices because apprentices who start today are in there for 4 years.
Yeah.
So we've been working really closely with the Skills Commissioner, Cameron Baker, and Minister Blair Boyer about dual trade.
Yeah, okay.
And in South Australia, there's only one dual trade, which is refrigeration and air conditioning. And we've, through consulting our customers and getting letters of support, about 2 weeks ago, the government announced 2 more dual trades, which is fantastic. Brilliant. So you can come in now as an apprentice and you can do light vehicle mechanic and at the same time do an apprenticeship in auto electrical.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, or heavy vehicle mechanic and auto electrical. So what this is doing is preparing the younger people for EVs in the next few years. So I do thank the Skills Commissioner and Minister Boyer for that. They're great support.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah.
So, because the other thing that I keep thinking about, and I'm just talking about my experience when I went through and bought an electric vehicle, was, I mean, the online shop.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
it was. I didn't go. I went down to the airport where they got a couple of cars down there and just drove one around to make sure it was exactly what I wanted. Yeah. And then I bought it online, like I would sneakers. Right. Like it was that simple. It was really strange. Yeah. And how does that affect you and your members, and what's the plan there?
Yeah, well, we are seeing that, and we actually dabbled with that at Mitsubishi for quite a while about buying online. Maybe at a shopping centre there was 4 or 5 cars that you could drive around. Yeah. You knew how to drive it, and then you just went away and bought online because you wanted the red one. Yeah. 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 When you think about it, can be a commodity, right? Yeah. Can be in that space, but there's different models happening sort of right through it. But one of the challenges is with cars is still street presence. Like you need to see the dealership, and that's branding, yeah. So there is different models out there. There's agency models, and all sorts of. If we go on West Terrace there, we've got the big Toyota dealership, which is a massive beacon, and you can see all the cars and go in and talk about them. Yep. But when we look at EVs, it's right through. At the motor trade, we've got not just dealerships. We've got tow truck operators. We've got light vehicle mechanical places that you take your cars to. We've got farm dealerships, and we've got motorcyclists, and it's affecting every one of them. Yeah, so if I take a farmer, for instance, autonomous tractors are with us right now. So what does that mean for our farm sellers and farm dealerships, and mechanics that work on that? If I take a motorcycle operator, one of our board members, Mark Flynn, he was telling me the other day that a certain motorcycle, you put it out on your driveway and they do an iOS update through the satellite.
Yeah, wow.
Right? So all of these sort of things are changing quickly.
Yeah.
A tow truck operator, an EV can catch fire days after it's had an accident because it's actually the chemical reaction in the batteries. So if I talk to John Hitchcock from Darrel, he says, well, if I pick an EV up that's had a crash on the side of the freeway, where do I store that car? Do I put it next to all the other cars or do I have to put it 100 metres away?
Yeah.
If I talk to a dealership, they talk to me a lot about charging because what happens in Norway is when you get your car serviced, there's an expectation from the customer that your car comes back with a full battery.
Yeah.
My car doesn't come back today with a full tank of fuel,
No.
but there is this expectation.
Yeah.
But what does that mean to a dealership? That means I've got to have charge all these cars that are getting serviced. So then that means infrastructure. So yesterday we were with Minister Tom Koutsantonis and talking a lot about power networks.
I haven't thought of it like that.
It goes through everything.
Can't give me back my car with 20% left on the...
How do I get home?
Yeah, how do I get home?
Yeah, but but also if you think of the positive for that for a dealership, it is a potential revenue stream because there will be less things to do on the car.
Yeah.
But if I can give it a full charge and then mark it up a bit, I can make revenue from that.
Yeah, well, RAA have put out their charging stations everywhere. They're making a quid off it.
Good job.
Just get put your own in and goes on the bill, doesn't it? Really?
Well, just charging. For instance, Teslas tell you where the Tesla chargers are, and that happened in Keith about 3 months ago.
Yeah.
12 Teslas lined up, right? But there was a charger around the corner.
Yeah.
But the Tesla is trying to keep you like Apple into their system.
Yeah.
And then there's all the other claims.
So maybe that's what happened with me with Berry and Renmark when I didn't, because I only looked at the Tesla chargers and there wasn't any up there.
Yeah, there's other chargers.
There probably is.
Chargers.
Yeah, okay.
My Energy's got chargers. There's probably RAA chargers. There's chargers everywhere. So what we're seeing is it's through everything. Infrastructure is a big one.
Yeah.
Right, because we've got dealerships right now that are changing. So the Porsche dealership at Medindi, Sean Swift, Eagers dealership, they've just done a big rebuild. We're talking millions of dollars. They've got to put a number of chargers in there. The challenge with that is there enough power in that area, and the pipes need to be big to put those chargers in. So we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars to get the pipes in or get the transformers up. So we were working with SA Power Networks around that. But interestingly, yesterday, and I think Minister Koutsantonis was really, and I agree with him on this point, is I think once we get used to electric cars, and we have a number of them, we will charge them at home at night time, no different than our iPhones.
Yeah.
So we'll go to work, we might charge them if there's enough chargers around, but we'll go home into the carport, plug the car in, overnight it will recharge itself.
Yep.
And if we look at bi-directional, the car itself might give some energy back to the house.
Yep.
We'll have solar on our roof, probably 12 kilowatts,
Yep.
and a smart system that says, right now I'll give charge to the car, or I'll give charge to the washing machine or the air conditioner, and it'll just work it all out for us.
Yeah.
And then we'll drive to work.
Brilliant.
That's what will happen.
I have solar on my roof, and not so much in the winter, but in the summer, I at night just top up the car just to keep me getting through the week.
Yeah.
But then I do the full charge on the weekend when it's in the sun, and it just gets the full charge, and that gets me through. So it saves me so much.
Yeah. I think the one piece to the puzzle that you need by the sounds is that battery.
Yeah.
Because I think you're right. If it's night time, we're not getting any solar. If it's cloudy, we're not getting any solar. So if you've got that battery, and if you take an Outlander PHEV from Mitzi's, a Tesla wall has about 10 kilowatts in it, right?
Yep.
An Outlander PHEV is a 56 kilowatt car. That's nearly 6 Tesla walls. So now we start talking about the reuse of batteries. So when you talk to me about, okay, they've all got batteries in it, what are we going to do? Are we going to bury them in landfill? What are we going to do? We think a lot of the batteries will go into a secondary market.
Yeah.
They'll come out of cars, they'll go on the walls of houses.
Yeah, because it's so expensive to buy a battery and put it in. It's like 10 grand, 10, 15 grand right now.
Yeah.
And the payback period is not there. So you just...
No, so that will happen. One of the challenges in electric vehicles right now is resale value.
Yeah.
My advice to you is to perhaps offload that Tesla before it's 8 years old.
Yeah.
Because I think right now it's like, because the car is made up of the batteries, the next buyer is quite concerned about the state of those batteries.
Yeah, no doubt.
So I could buy a car that's only got 20% in the batteries and it'll only ever take me 80 Ks.
Yeah.
Well, do I really want to do that?
Yeah.
So we are seeing resale values of EVs struggle.
Yeah.
The other one that is happening is insurance companies, and this is a lot overseas, are very wary around EVs because of the fire situation. Now, the fires in proper made OEM EVs are very minimal. What we see fires in is those e-scooters that are 110 kilowatts and you want to put 240 in it, right? But what that's done is it's linked our brains to say lithium batteries are dangerous, whether they're in. So we're doing a lot of work with the MFS, SAPOL, CFS around that. But the reality is fires in EVs are very small if you do it right.
Correct. So what of the service stations then?
Yeah.
Like you think, because I keep thinking about, if we do go electric and, there's hydrogen, there's all these other technologies. Someone was even saying to me the other day that there's uranium that could, and you
not sure about that one.
Yeah, I know. I was like, what the hell? Well, this is taking a leap.
Yeah.
But you think about, though, when you go to the swap over your barbecue, like the swap, swap and go.
Yeah, well,
could
one day.
Could it be the same thing with batteries, where you unplug and just grab a new battery and drive off? Or I don't.
Well, that's happening.
Yeah, is it?
Yeah, that's happening already. So there's some Cube together with Jared Archer are doing battery exchange at Port Augusta on big trucks.
Yeah, wow.
So what happens is you drive your truck along, you take the battery out. Sometimes it's manually done, sometimes it's done by a robot, and then they put a new battery pack in, and the truck driver pays an amount of money for the new battery. Right? And trucking's an interesting one because you've got long haul and you've got lots of weight. I think what we're starting to feel is that hydrogen is a better solution in that space, right? But the problem with hydrogen right now is very expensive. Yeah. Very expensive to make, very expensive to store and move around. It will come. Hydrogen will come. And Toyota have got a Mirror, which is a car which runs on hydrogen, right? And I was out at Torrens Transit with Dave Sherrard the other day, and they've got 2 hydrogen buses that they're putting through trial for the next couple of years. He showed me the tanks of hydrogen, which had come from Tonsley, the hydrogen facility, and they put it through a compressor and they charged the bus up overnight with hydrogen. We went for a ride on the hydrogen bus, no noise, and take off. Right? So there is all sorts of technologies. There's biofuel. Through Europe, they're doing a lot of work on biofuel over there. So, the fish and chip shop fuel or whatever it is, the biofuels, and there's some stuff where they say they're taking carbon out of the air, mixing it with biofuel and coming out the other side. So we're seeing lots and lots of different approaches to trying to get to this. So our sort of view is that EVs are part of the solution. Hydrogen will definitely be part of the solution once we can get it to scale, probably more in big transport. And then you've got everything else that happens. So from a petrol station's point of view, and I'm really lucky that the chair is Frank Agostino. He runs about 25 petrol stations, right? So I spent a lot of time with Frank. So there will be the Bowser. That's going to stay, and you'll see the Bowser there for a long time. But Frank's already preparing his petrol stations through BP Pulse to have charging areas on the forecourt. And what we've seen in Norway is their legislation is you can charge, but it has to be 14 metres away from the nozzle of a fuel bowser.
Yeah, makes sense.
Right? One of the challenges in Australia is our petrol stations, where is that 14-metre zone? And it's often where you pump your tyres up with the car. So I was down in Mount Gambier the other day and there was a whole heap of Tesla chargers at the OTR down there. It was about 5 or 6 in a row. So you will see charging. Hydrogen, it might be like, remember the big LPG tanks or go underground when it comes. The challenge with the charging, and once again, when talking to Frank, is they'll be 150 kilowatt fast charging. But if you have, let's say you've got 6 on your site, if one car is charging, you'll get 150 kilowatts. If 6 charges are going, it'll all average back down, which is a time issue. So what then will happen is about, how long is it? And then we'll start to see service stations, will there have to be more convenience? Can you plug your laptop in there? Will I work from there for an hour? If I've got kids with me, will there be a child care facility here? So there's a whole
Hungry
change.
Jack's, McDonald's, Subway.
Yeah, exactly. So
very
different.
It is. Yeah, there's something about mixing electricity and petrol together that scares me a little bit.
A little bit, definitely. So that's why that rule's there. When we talk to the MFS, right now today, there's some charges in places that they are worried about, like that we know of a couple of charges that are quite close to gas mains. So, the challenge in our industry right now is the industry is moving so fast is that legislation isn't quite catching up as much as we try to. And we're spending a lot of time with government saying, well, this is happening, that's happening. For instance, if you have an accident in an electric vehicle and the battery pack's compromised, insurance companies are saying that's a write-off, no repair. Right now, what does that mean to our crash repairers? what does that mean to the second-hand market? So the worry for me is when we get to some sort of scale and we have backyarders putting cars together with battery packs from A and battery pack from, and not really knowing what to do.
No,
that's scary.
that is.
That's when fires and things could happen.
Well, it's got to be an authorised. I had a little bit of a little mishap with mine, and I took it in.
Yeah.
But the place that did it was fantastic. Yeah. They're an authorised dealer.
Yeah.
They were brilliant.
Yeah.
The parts though were astronomical.
Yes.
Lucky I had insurance because it's like I probably wouldn't have been able to afford it. Like it was ridiculous.
Yeah.
And so that's the part that I think about is actually how do we actually get the costs down from the second-hand market and or the parts market and all the above, because a little ding on the back of my tailgate was about 10 grand.
Yeah,
and you just because they had to replace the whole tailgate, and then they had to replace all the electrics that go with it, and you just go, "What? How is that so expensive?" It literally, someone backed into my car, like just and with the tow bar, and the whole thing was $10,000. And
cars are getting more complicated. No matter, I saw an Audi the other day. It had the light assembly, which is they got LiDARs and all sorts in it, but the light assembly, which is always on high beam, right, actually detects people through the camera in the windscreen and will dim. Or if you're driving in the country and say you're on at 2 o'clock, it'll only dim at 2 o'clock, but at 12 o'clock and at 3 o'clock it'll stay on. I asked how much that light assembly was if it got broken. It was over $20,000.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
So ultimately, to your point,
Yeah.
these are computers on wheels.
Yeah.
We are seeing through China a lot more AI in cars now.
Yeah.
We have seen Google trial autonomous cars. They are coming. There will be autonomous cars in certain areas.
Yeah.
A lot of liability. Like, for instance, if you're driving on the freeway with no entry and exit zones, you could probably do it. It's all the calculations of dogs and that.
Yeah.
We've already got cars that bring you back in your lane. We've already got cars that brake for you before you hit something. You know, we've got all of that is building towards autonomous vehicles, but they are getting expensive. Cars are the second biggest purchase that you'll ever have.
Yeah. I was told that Tesla aren't really too concerned about their cars, but more about the data that they're collecting, so they can sell that data to the rest of the market in order to be able to automate it all.
Yeah. We could go on forever here.
Yeah, we could.
I think we're worried about, privacy of data is paramount right now, right? Because, we're seeing a lot of cyber stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you right now that most of the cars' headsets are talking to the little black dome on top of the near the lights. What do you think is telling the lights that you got 12 minutes to get to Port Road? Your car's telling that, right? So all those headsets are already. We were working on telematics in the day, so a lot of that's going back overseas. I think the challenge is, you pump your phone data in there. Is it safe? Who else is getting my phone data? I think it's just an area that we're just going to have to learn to live with. We'll adopt. That's what we do.
Yep, 100%.
Yeah.
So what's the MTA's role in all this change? Obviously, setting up the industry for success. I mean, we're looking overseas and kind of copying them in a way. How come South Australia can't be leaders in this space?
Yeah, I think we will be leaders in this space in a lot of areas. Yesterday I ran into a gentleman who was looking at flywheels to generate energy for charging cars. So we constantly, or I look at, I've spoken to another company who's converting all Land Cruiser mining to battery. We do a lot of work with Normet. Everything underground is battery. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One is, emissions, but also the environment for the workers under the ground. So we train all those people that go under there how that works. So I think you will find South Australia's got a lot of great entrepreneurs that will find lots of opportunities through battery technology, vehicle technology or whatever. For us at the MTA, it's about ultimately we're owned by the members and it's making sure that our members are aware of what's coming and helping them adapt to what's coming. But some members see it as it won't affect me, or I'm at that stage in my career that I don't care. But then I talk to another member and they see this massive opportunity. They see an opportunity in, okay, well, what can I do in the battery recycling area? Recycling in the circular economy is getting bigger. In South Australia, we throw 3,000 car bumper bars a week into landfill, So how do we recycle them better? I've seen some videos with batteries on cars that 97% of them are getting recycled because the minerals in there are very valuable. the plastics can get melted down. What we see in Switzerland is they've got waste burners. So they actually burn the waste of a car. In Australia, I think, don't exactly quote me, I think it might be 85% of a car can be recycled. In Switzerland, it's about another 10%. It's up to 95 because they burn the rubber and they burn the plastics. Now, you and I, if we burnt something in the old incinerator out the back, we'd probably have all this black smoke. Well, there is no emissions from the burning. So we need to start thinking about waste burners in Australia, and I think they are looking at one in WA.
Yep.
So I think, once again, there's a problem. We'll find a solution. It might create another problem, but I think one thing that we're all very good at as humans is we adopt.
Yep.
I wouldn't have thought 20 years ago that I would have had a computer in my hand walking around being able to search everything I wanted to search.
It's true.
It's unreal.
Very true.
So our main role is to help our members in their business. At the end of the day, they got the skin in the game. They've put the money into it. It's their business. How do we help them adapt, change, solve their problems, and ultimately make their business successful? That's what it's about.
Brilliant. Now, I am conscious of your time.
That's all right.
We are, I think, like you said, we could probably talk about that
could.
topic.
I love it.
I want to ask one last question
sure.
on the macro.
Yeah.
What's the one thing that excites you the most about about the industry?
Oh, that's a really good one. I think every day I read something, there's something new. Now, it's not all real, but what that does is gives opportunity, and it comes back to my whiteboard, a maze of opportunity. I think in an industry that's stagnant, it's very difficult to sort of go, well, how do I make a change? But I pick up media monitoring that's like, wow, is that happened? What's going on there? How does that help us? How's that going to help a young person start a business that we haven't even dreamt about of being a business? So that's the bit for me. When we've got good media monitoring, Bloomberg and all that sort of stuff, and it's just there's opportunity absolutely everywhere, and you can hear it in my voice. It's like wow, I'd love to live to 100 and do this to 100 because every day you can do something different, and that's what excites me. Yeah.
Do you think we'll ever be in flying cars, like the old Back to the Future?
Well, I have heard that there was going to be flying cars at some Olympics or something. I don't know. I really don't know, but I think it'll be a mix. I haven't seen a hoverboard yet, but there may somewhere.
Back to the Future is one of my favourite movies. I'm under the impression that there will never be flying cars. On the back of what happens if one breaks down?
Exactly.
So I just don't think it's feasible. Which is kind of why Elon with Tesla has said he's got the boring company and. He believes it's going to go underground, not above ground.
Yeah, he's got those tunnels through Las Vegas where you can drive in and stuff like that.
And so that's how, similar to you before the conversation, we were talking about the subway in Japan, the underground, and how it's actually a safer way to travel. So.
Yeah, I agree. And you're out of the elements and you've got all that sort of stuff. It's expensive. If you look at the South Road extension, it's a lot of money to dig tunnels and stuff, but plenty of room down there.
Yeah.
Probably, as you said, a bit safer. But look, I think it'll just be all sorts of things. In my lifetime, there'll be a bit of everything. It's interesting. My son's 22. He drives a V8 Toyota Crown.
Yeah.
So I think the young people that are still around, the noise of a V8 engine and the feeling of that, it is one thing that electric cars don't have. They certainly have the feeling of acceleration. And in fact, you can read plenty of stories. The MG4, I think, is 3.6 seconds per 100 Ks. It's quicker than a Porsche.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
And no doubt your Tesla's pretty quick off the line when you need it. But it'll be everything. I think there's just to be everything.
Yeah. I'm concerned. I'm a Formula One fan. I'm concerned about Formula One, to be honest.
I think you'll go to e-fuels. Like I've watched the e-Formula One. It's a bit boring.
It's boring as bad.
But I think they'll go to a lot of biofuels and really go up that end.
Yeah.
And, I think the other thing there will be, aircraft. There's a lot of fuel used there. Will they move into this e-fuel area? So ultimately, a lot of that comes down to cost, especially with aircraft. But Formula One's a great testing ground for the cars that you and I drive.
Yeah, absolutely. Rightio. Just to... On kind of a bit of a closing tradition, we ask some quick fire questions. But before I do that, if you could encapsulate your entire journey with one message or thought, what would that be today?
Tough one, Daniel. It's a very tough one. I think give it a go. You actually don't know what you can achieve. Like I think ultimately sometimes we put barriers in front of ourselves, and as we do grow older, we lose that that childhood where we just explored. You know, I ate mud pies and off things and did that, but you know what I did? I learned a lot from it.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, it's hard because you sort of, you know, get a mortgage, you get kids, and you get, you know, you're in this sort of rat race thing. But don't be scared to give it a go and try stuff. And I think some of the best entrepreneurs and some of the best CEOs around have tried, failed, done whatever. But my message to people that are listening is don't believe in yourself. Like, you probably sometimes put up barriers and think you can't do it.
Yeah.
You probably can do it. You probably can do it. You just got to...
Well, it goes back to your point in the maze of opportunity, right? Like,
you know, who would have thought this little bloke from Red Hill, born in Balaclava, riding his push bike, taught off by his mum, would have been the CEO of a place that he loves to do.
Yeah.
I've had a great journey, and, you know, if it all finished tomorrow, which I hope it doesn't, I've had, you know, businesses, people, everyone's given me opportunities that I've really enjoyed, and it's more the things that I carry with me are the experiences. The experiences are the stories that come out.
Yeah, and the relationships you build along the
Yeah,
way,
exactly.
Yeah. What advice would you give to an emerging leader who's looking to make an impact? And
I think the number one for me is find a mentor.
Yeah.
Find someone who has, you know, they don't necessarily have to have been in the industry that you've been into, but I think experience, you know, we always talk about wise head, young shoulders. Well, you can have the young shoulders. Go and find the wise head. Go and talk to someone that you can trust and you can throw anything at. And it might not be one person. It might be 2 or 3 people that you can just go, okay, can I bounce something off you? Because you won't have all the answers. There'll be days where you just feel like, why do I get out of bed?
Yeah.
You need to have that person that you just have a chat with.
Yeah, great. Leo, some quick fire questions to finish off. Now, we're big readers here. We're big learners. You said you're a big learner and consumer. Is there a particular book that you've loved that stood out from the crowd?
I want to say the title of it. I can't remember it exactly, but I think it says "I don't give a fuck."
Yeah,
I think it's that one.
Mark Manson's
that I read. But look, to be honest, I'm not a big total book reader.
Yeah.
I'm a snippet reader.
Yeah, okay.
Like, I like to grab bits from here and grab bits from there.
Yep.
And it can come from anywhere.
Yep.
Like, it could come from, I'm reading a magazine on a plane to somewhere and I go that. And what I do is, my memory must be failing me. I take photos of things all the time.
Yep.
And then I'll read them again. Yeah. In a moment when I've probably got more to get it into the brain and stuff. So come from anywhere. Peak Performance is another book I read. It's all about sport.
Yep. And
it was about high-performing sports teams like the All Blacks and what made them high-performing sports teams.
Yeah.
You know, or coaches. I read a lot of biographies, you know, whether it's a music biography. The Andre Agassi book was a really interesting book.
Amazing book.
I love that book. It was, you know, and, you know, the fact he couldn't get out of bed, his back was basically broken in the US Open and stuff like that. So I think you just find bits everywhere 100%. That you sort of...
Yeah, Andre Agassi's Open was one of the best. It was one of the best autobiographies I've ever read. You might like the just thinking about you and your background. Shoe Dog by Phil Knight, which is
the shoes.
Yeah, it was the founder of Nike.
Yes,
and it's the journey of Nike, and it is actually an amazing.
I'm writing that down. By the way,
it's an amazing autobiography. What's one lesson that's taking you the longest to learn?
Being an extrovert, it's hard to listen. And I do find in meetings sometimes where you do take it over a bit. So one of the things that I do, sounds really weird, is I actually rate myself after meetings.
Oh, yeah?
So I'll have a meeting with my staff, and then as I walk back to my office in the corridor, I actually think about the meeting, and I'll actually go, you know what, 8 out of 10. That was a good meeting. And the reason why it was a good meeting was I didn't take it over. I listened to my staff and I let the conversation sort of roll. And then there'll be another meeting. I'll walk back and I go, no, 4 out of 10.
Yeah.
4. You know, you didn't actually bring the people together, or you did this or you did that. So that's a constant thing that I do. And I feel, actually, it's really weird. I actually feel quite down when I get a 4 out of 10 for myself. And I'm a pretty hard critic. I go, you know what, you've got to be better than that. Got to be.
That's your sport background coming out there, because in sport, this is one thing, you get instant feedback.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's true.
And whether you kick the ball and you misses the target, or you bowl the ball and it's way off, it's bowled wide, or you get to the bench and the coach is on the ringer like having a go at you. It's instant feedback, right? So I think that's kind of what the first thing that came to my mind when you said that is you're looking for that feedback. Would your staff say, if you gave yourself an 8, would your staff say would they give you? It's
I suppose the measure of your staff sometimes is when you walk in their office unannounced. Your birthday, things like that. And I was chuffed. Like I turned up to work and it was my birthday. I told no one, and I think I had 6 gifts on my desk. They decorated my room. There was some cardboard cutouts. It was a bit of fun and stuff. And I like, they didn't have to do that. I didn't tell anyone. No one really would have known anyway. But I actually do get a lot of instant feedback from my staff. So I think, and my staff can be very honest with me.
Yeah.
They can say, that's okay.
That's good.
And I think the best leveler is generally when you get home.
Yeah.
And you talk to your wife or your partner. Yeah. And they're a good leveler, because I can come home and I'll try to leave it at the door, but every now and then it'll be like, and then they'll say, you know what, it's not that big an issue. Yeah. What are you worried about? Sort of stuff. So.
Or vice versa.
Yeah.
you come home with like the most exciting news, and they've got
big deal.
Yeah, big deal. Yeah. So, like, what do you like?
Exactly.
You don't get it. If you could have a coffee with one current or historical figure, who would it be?
Well, that's a really good one. I've met Don Bradman.
Have you?
Yeah. I've met, because I was a coach at Saka. He's a very quiet man, though. He wouldn't talk a lot.
Wow.
Signed a couple of cricket bats for me, so he was very good. I suppose I've been fortunate through my whole life to meet, awesome people. It's hard to really sort of say one.
But Don Bradman.
Don,
Did you have a coffee with him?
No, I met him. I was coaching. He came into Saka. He used to come into Saka quite often. But, it's very introverted. Very introverted man, I think. No, right off the top of the head, it's really hard. As I said, I've met an astronaut. That's a pretty good one.
Yeah.
But
is there anyone right now that you go, actually, I wouldn't mind a coffee to learn more? It might even be from Elon, from the automotive industry or something like that.
He'd be interesting, wouldn't he?
He's a bit of a fruitcake, but yeah.
Yeah, it'd be very interesting. Let me take that on notice. I'll have to.
I'm happy with the Don one, to be honest. What is some of the best advice you've ever received?
I think really from my parents, just be yourself. Be yourself. I think through life, you do have to be characters. There's no doubt. Like, you're in a meeting, you got to be a character, right? In certain meetings, it's got to be a little bit different than that. But ultimately, if you're not true to yourself and you're not being yourself, people will pick you. People will pick you. So, just be yourself. And, myself is just honest, who I am. I'm an honest, loyal person who likes to work hard. And I think that's helped me achieve through life.
Yeah. What's one habit that holds you back the most?
Habit holds me back.
Yeah.
I've probably got a little bit of OCD, pens up on that whole. That's a tough one. I do enjoy lunch by myself. Yeah. I actually sit in my car by myself for lunch, off-site.
Is that just to clear your head?
Yeah,
I don't know if that holds you back. That's probably that probably does the opposite.
Got any examples?
Well, I think you gave one before about speaking in a meeting, maybe.
Yeah, well,
potentially where you can overspeak.
I like to be a storyteller. Well, that's just me, I suppose.
Yeah. What's something that pisses you off the most?
I don't like lies. Yeah. That really gripes me. I'm dealing with something in that space at the moment, and I don't like lazy people. Yeah. It really pisses me off, especially when you see other people that are putting in. Yeah. Right, and you see that one person that's just hanging around in the shadows and lazy and stuff like that. I have a trait where I'll actually go up to them and I'll either give them a broom or I'll do something. Yeah. And I actually and it's a real pointed sort of thing. Yeah. It's like
well, it goes to your point earlier where because I do the exact same thing where I'm in a restaurant and or I, even like you said, like picking up the glasses and putting them on the sink or whatever it might be. But I look at, I look at people who are just rude.
Yes.
In the sense, like not helping.
Yes.
If I'm at a restaurant and we're ordering a meal, and you haven't acknowledged the person who's putting the plate down or whatever.
Yeah, I think please and thank you.
Yeah, 100%.
General manners. I'll give you a little anecdote about a story in Singapore last week. Right, so I go to a fast food place. Shake Shack. Yeah. Love Shake Shack. Yeah. So fast food.
What type of food?
Oh, it's burgers.
Yeah.
But it's like Betty's Burgers down on Runnell Street, right? And there's people through the restaurant, and the people, they get up and clean their tables.
Yeah.
Right? And I was talking to my wife, Kerry, about it, and I said, check out this restaurant. It is absolutely pristine clean. But we don't just talk, like, take your stuff. They go and get a napkin and clean the table, right, and stuff like that. And then I saw on one of the tables in a shopping centre, there was a $300 Singapore dollar fine if you didn't clean your table.
Yeah, wow.
Right? And I thought about it, and I thought, what a great thing, because you see in fast food restaurants in Australia, we just all get up and leave,
And
yeah?
there's shit all over the floor.
But it's sort of like, the analogy in my mind was, everyone just pitches in. Everyone does their little bit to keep the place clean. And 100%. To me, that was gold. I was like, oh, I love this.
Yeah, so good. So good. If you could pay someone to do a chore for you, which chore would it be?
Oh, a chore. I actually like doing chores. It's really weird. Yeah. I love mowing my lawn.
Yeah.
I love it. I love the smell.
Yeah.
That's a cricket thing.
I don't see that as a chore.
That's a cricket thing. Washing my car.
My wife always says, why don't we just pay someone to do it? I'm like,
nah, mate. I've got the barrel mower. Yeah. I've got the Tiff Tough lawn. Yeah. Probably, dishes.
Yeah.
I got 20-year-old kids that just leave dishes everywhere. So that's probably the chore.
What's one word you absolutely hate?
C-A-N-T.
Can't, yeah.
I can't do that.
Yeah, 100%.
I can't do it. Well, let's think about it.
Yeah.
You can do it. We can do it. We just got to find a way. Yeah.
My parents, you talk about parents and what was the things that they've instilled in you. My parents, from the day I remember, was there's no such word as can't.
Yep.
Right? 100%. Yep. What's the first thing that you would do if you became invisible? This could go anywhere.
I used to, when I was at Mitsubishi, and this is sort of turning it back, we used to go to a lot of meetings in Tokyo.
Yeah.
And obviously there was a lot of Japanese people in the room. And I don't understand Japanese at all. And I was sure there was moments that the Japanese was spoken. And you know how you have that feeling?
Yeah.
They're talking about me.
Yeah.
Right? So it's sort of like invisible, but what I really wished I had was this ability to speak Japanese, right? And be in the meeting and listen to Japanese. Yeah. And when they actually spoke potentially about me, not saying they did, did, just respond in Japanese.
Yeah, yeah.
And just go, can you?
You had a bit of an Italian accent. What's the most useless talent that you have?
I can't roll my tongue. I can't.
Oh, yeah?
I'm hopeless at most things. My most useless talent. People might say that it's my golfing. All right. Useless talent. Dad jokes.
What perfect, good segue. What's your best dad joke?
Oh, there you got me. Oh,
take your time because you didn't prep for this.
No, I didn't. Most of them are sort of too bad to sort of say on.
No, they're the worst they are. Unless they're crude.
Yeah, no. Oh, I haven't got anything for you. My son and I have got a really good. He's 22. We play golf together. A good relationship, right? And memes go between each other and that. So we have this thing. We sent a meme the other day. I was like, the drill. I don't know whether you've seen it. It's just a picture of a big drill. Yeah. So we'll do this around the house all the time. So we'll walk past that fan that's next to you and go, you know what? That's your biggest fan.
Big fan.
The household's like that all the time.
Yeah.
It's just constant banter, which I love because, the workplace, you can't. It's different.
That's so good.
It's not really a dad joke. It's more like banter. And, in some respects, and I really appreciate that he's 22, he's got his life and all that other stuff, but we can have this banter and,
that's testament to you and the way you've brought him up, right?
Yeah, I suppose, and to him, it's he's welcomed me into his life.
Absolutely, beautiful. Look, that's it from us. Thank you so much for
Thanks, Daniel.
for your time today. Thank you to the MTA and everything that you are doing for the industry. Obviously, it is having a major impact in South Australia and Northern Territory in the way you serve and the members in which you serve. So. I guess from our perspective, how do we understand more about you guys and for those who are listening in want to learn more about you or the MTA, where can they go? Where can they connect?
Well, if you want to learn more about me, I'm not on socials.
Yeah, I know you're not.
Go through Daniel but just contact the MTA.
Yep.
I have as I said, an open door policy. I give my phone number to all address. The MTA is obviously we've got our website and. You can go mtasant.com.au or just look for the blue sign. Like I think if you're driving around in your car and you see that MTA blue sign, you know that they're a member.
Yep.
And if you're looking at getting your car fixed or serviced and that, please look for our members. But I'm contactable. You can find me around town somewhere.
Beautiful. Easy. Thank you again, mate. And we'll catch you next time. Thanks for listening to the podcast all. You can check out the show notes if there was anything of interest to you and find out more about us at SynergyIQ.com.au. I am going to ask though, if you did like the podcast, it would absolutely mean the world to me if you could subscribe, rate and review. And if you didn't like it, that's all right too. There's no need to do anything. Take care, guys. All the best.